All right, I'll call the meeting to order and we can salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first order of business will be accepting the revised meeting agenda.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the previous minutes.
So move.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Treasurer's report.
So move. Second.
The discussion items I've got. So are there, is there input from Scott on this? Is that the
Yes.
reason? Okay, here we go.
Yes. So I have two items on the tax cap and tax levy, and then some additional information that we just learned today regarding the policy project that we've been working on. So the first point on the tax cap truly has to do with, I'm not sure if all of you had read the details in my board report, but it includes a basic summary of where we are positioned in the tax cap. And we're in a very good place. It's smoothed out nicely, projected over the next 5 years. The state set the tax cap so long as you don't have any additional exclusions to 1.23%. And obviously we have pilots, so we have some exclusions, and then there's obviously some other exclusions that go into the formula. And right now, depending on which way we go financially with bus purchases, which we like to buy 2 buses to keep that rotation good, we can fluctuate our cap anywhere from the 1.23% if you wanted to adhere to that to align with the state, or we could go without any modifications. As it stands right now, we sit at 2.65%. So anywhere in that window, we can make some adjustments on some assumptions with our exclusions and inclusions to get to a good spot, and understanding that any adjustment that we make modifies the roll-through projections for the next 5 years. However, we've smoothed it out well enough at this point that if we stay within what is a normal tolerance level for the district, the projection over a 5-year period is going to be almost immaterial. So I would just be looking for your guys' guidance on a fair, reasonable tax or a levy percentage that we would go out at, so I can start setting that forth in the final budget projections, which I really can't finalize anything on revenues until we get the governor's run in April. However, I have a pretty good indication of where we're going to be on the expense side. But as you all know, at the end of the day, whether we go out at, a 1% is approximately $16,000 to $18,000. So it's meaningful, but it's not materially significant to the overall $11 million budget.
Okay, so do you need that? You want that question answered tonight, or is
Doesn't
that...
have to be tonight. I'd like you guys to start thinking about it. But I just wanted you to be aware that I have us positioned right now in a responsible place that doesn't create significant ebbs and flows with the tax cap in the future. And anywhere the board would like us to go out at from a levy perspective, what that percentage is, I'm very comfortable with wherever you guys are. We'll be able to make that happen.
I feel like this has gotten to the point that the people that understand it, and the people that don't feel it's a 2% tax cap. And when Scott mentioned that it's 1 point, whatever, that's what they set it at, but with all the exclusions and inclusions, if you understand how it works, that's good. And like Scott mentioned, we're in a window of, anywhere from 2.6, Scott, I think you said, down as low as 1.8 or
1-ish, yeah.
yeah. So I think that, all we need to do, I think historically we've always tried to stay under the 2 because that's what the original tax cap was. And that's what I think a lot of people understand it to be. So I think, a 2.6 would probably not be the best thing for us, even though it does generate more revenue. I don't think the trade-off of the revenue to helping everybody understand what that is. So just my 2 cents.
Okay. Anybody else? Comments, thoughts? We can discuss it next time too.
Okay. And then the other component, I wasn't going to talk about it in detail on the board policy documents or the board policy manual, but Mr. Shelmadine and I had a very good conversation with a company called Board Docs. They're owned by a parent company called Diligent. And our Erie One BOCES, who we contracted to participate in doing the policy manual overhaul, they leverage that solution. Basically, that solution is a content management system, and it's not just for policy management. It's actually for everything Board of Education related. So it would be a place where content would be stored for board meetings, minutes, agendas, attachments, files, history, and it has everything top to bottom managed with credentials, with historical auditing. It's an extremely robust system is the best way I can describe it. And if we leverage it for our policy manual publication, right now we go to boardpolicyonline.com. We would now go to Board Docs. It's significantly more robust, and it also offers a number of rich features that can be utilized by the district. And the reason it came up is Brenda was commenting how other district clerks were saying how great it was for managing all of the things that go into what she does to serve you guys. And I said, well, then let's evaluate it and let's just see what the product is. So cost-wise, it would actually be a relatively significant savings. It would be 2/3 of the cost after BOCES aid because it's all aidable through BOCES. It would be 2/3 of the cost of what we're paying right now, or what we paid last year for policy manual management alone. Never mind all of the other great features that we would get. So I'm looking to implement or get to start utilizing that this year to start dry running it, and with the overall intention of having our policy manual distributed through this content management system once we get ready for publication.
Okay. Questions?
Yeah, do they offer district official training? Do they do like a presentation?
They do. They actually have, there's a lot of things that they offer that we don't currently have access to. They have 24/7 support, 365, always available for district officials, staff, super users, people who do the publications. And it can be utilized by a district as small as us or a district as large as LA County. I mean, they're very, very flexible and scalable. if you'd like that, I'm happy to arrange it. What I was hoping to do and plan to do starting this year or the remainder of this year is evaluate it in a live capacity in hopes that by the time we get the board policy manual entirely complete for you guys to review and eventually adopt, we will have already been able to make the decision whether or not we're going to proceed as that being our mode of distribution for public and internal consumption.
Other questions?
Can I add to that for a second, Mr. Luther?
Absolutely.
Just so you know, so you're going to get a website and everything that you need is going to be right there at your fingertips. All the resources, board agenda, minutes, and everything. So it seems very efficient, and I think we'll get a lot of use out of it.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Anybody else? Comments?
So there'll be more to come on that as we get through the next couple of months. By the time, like I said, by the time we have a copy of the manual ready to be presented to all of you, we will have already introduced what that content management system looks like for you, and hopefully have real live content in there so you can actually evaluate something, not evaluate what another district had. I mean, they showed us features today that were far beyond what our district would probably utilize. A lot of the stuff really, the juice really wasn't worth the squeeze. They were talking about a district that had HR staff, IT staff, and I don't know how many of those staff, but far larger than we were. So as we continue to go through that process and that evaluation, I'll make sure that we get it introduced to you as soon as it seems practical.
Okay. I believe we left off with a first and a second on the treasurer's report and then these discussion items. So any other discussion, including the treasurer's report? So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We've got to need a motion for the warrants.
So
So
move.
move.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I believe next on the agenda is the instructional budget presentation.
So
Is
Pam
that
and I,
right, Mr. Khan? Oh,
Yep.
okay, we're ready. All right. Go
Pam
for
and
it.
I will take it from here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, okay? Okay, so at this point, I'm thinking that you can all see my screen, but I can't see you. So if you need to ask a question, go ahead and interrupt. Pam and I can answer any questions that you have at any time, okay? All right, so we set up our presentation to be the same as we always have, following the format of the budget document that we fill out for the district office every year. And it starts out, needs, wants, would be nice to have kind of items. But this year, I think we'd really like to spend more of our time talking about the things that are already in place that we, first of all, thank you for. And second of all, that we would like to just have continued support so that we don't fall back from where we already are. We definitely understand that in the coming years, especially maybe even this coming year, with the uncertainty of, where the state and federal budgets are going, we are, hopeful that we can just kind of focus on where we are and everything that we've accomplished to this year, and ask for very little in addition. So in terms of continued support, like last year, our PD, our professional development, is an area that's always important to support and retain teachers. It hasn't been entirely robust for everyone in the district. Pam can speak to this more accurately than I can. I feel like the elementary teachers have been able to leverage what's going on at BOCES a little more than the secondary teachers can or have. I shouldn't say can. I
don't think, I'm going to jump in here because I don't think what they're doing is BOCES related. What they're doing is, I'm not trying to jump ahead, but looking down through one of the creative solutions our teachers have to virtual learning, and that they don't really want to do virtual learning. They don't really want to participate in professional development online, the same as they don't want to teach remotely. They don't want any part of it. So what they have done, and talk about being creative, is they reached out to DBK actually for some funding for top 10 tools for reading teachers. And this is an amazing course. It's an online reading course that DBK offered to fund, and it's being facilitated by Lisa Madison, Courtney Williams. We currently have 13 teachers that are involved in this training, and they're doing it on their own time, the online training, and they're also doing, they're meeting once every 2 weeks. And Nikki's a part of that, so she could jump in here if I'm saying anything incorrectly. But they meet every 2 weeks and they discuss it. It's been amazing. They sing its praises all the time. They talk about how they can immediately take it to the classroom. But they're going to have about 60 professional development hours each that they're doing through this online training. It's amazing what they're doing. So they're being a little creative with their professional development. They're not excited about doing it virtually, but they will if they can have a conversation to go along with it. So that's what that is.
So basically, the professional development is frequently what keeps people jazzed up about what they're doing. I can say that our tech department has offered a great deal of tech support and professional development with regard to our technology throughout the shutdown last year, throughout the summer, and then moving into this year. Teachers are using tools nowadays that they never even knew existed a year ago. For instance, we have a teacher who has to teach down in the gym, and having a screen that is big enough in front of the students to be able to see and interact with the lesson is very difficult. So she has leveraged an extension on Google Slides called Pear Deck, and that puts the presentation on every single student's screen right on their desk. And it also allows her to have the students interact with that presentation, so they can answer questions, they can, input comments, they can ask questions right from their desk, and including the students who are at home. So it's just like the kids who are at home are in the room interacting with those presentations. Another example would be Jamboard. It's like a whiteboard that Google offers that can be incorporated right into your presentations. So kids can be doing brainstorming. They can break off into collaborative groups. And when she breaks them off into collaborative groups, one group can work on this slide answering this question, and another group can work on another slide, and then bring them back together. The middle school teachers have been leveraging breakout rooms that Google Meet has to offer, which is available because we invested in Google Enterprise, which is a paid version of the Google suite of apps. for instance, the science teacher had students giving presentations, and she needed to allow students who are in the classroom to work with their group mates who might have been in the other classroom or at home. So she would say, okay, log on to the Google Meet, and I'm going to put you folks into a breakout room so that you can practice your presentation before you give it. So those students can actually work with each other wherever they are and get their thoughts together so that when they come back to the meet, they can then also present to the class as a group, no matter where they are, even if they're not in the same room. So the amount of professional development that has happened has been robust, and it has been different, I would say, in the elementary and in the secondary. But regardless, it's been very important. So the fact that you have supported us year after year after year with professional development is something that we not only thank you for, but it's one of those things that we would like you to consider keeping in the budget so that we can continue keeping our teachers at the leading edge of, of technology, of reading instruction, of all of those things that we work so hard for. So anything else, Pam, that you'd like to add?
No, I was just thinking, as long as, we genuinely appreciate being able to, when we see something great come up, being able to ask for it and being able to make it happen for everyone that wants this professional development. Definitely is what keeps people, like Nadine said, jazzed about doing what they're doing.
Absolutely. And not to say that it hasn't been challenging. It has been challenging, but the fact that we have the tools to meet the challenges is what has made our teachers as resilient as they have been. So it's been, professional development is just such an important piece of our budget, and we would, ask to continue with that support. Okay. The next thing are curriculum solutions, and I'm going to let Pam take this slide.
I will take this slide because this is something that's kind of near and dear to my heart. One of the things you may notice from my board report, I focus a lot on, we've been talking a lot about reading instruction in the elementary. And last year we purchased the second edition of CKLA curriculum. CKLA stands for Core Knowledge Language Arts. And it was a fairly pricey curriculum, and we got all the materials we needed for our teachers. Along with that came M-Class, which is an assessment tool. And I won't bore you with all the details of that, but it's amazing. And it's been great to target specific skills that kids need. And then there's Amplify Reading, which is the online component. And the reason why I wanted to put it in here in our budget presentation is, naturally, we don't have to buy the curriculum every year, but there are materials that do need to come along, the student workbooks. And technology is great, but kids really need to write on paper. So we need those workbooks and, the continued subscriptions to the M-Class and to the Amplify Reading. So that's something super grateful for. And a lot of schools are jealous because we've got this great curriculum and it provides everything we need. So it's great.
And I'm going to ask you to keep this slide in mind as we move forward. I'll harken back to this slide a little bit later in the presentation. Okay. So the next thing that we would, again, like to thank you for and to ask for continued support is summer learning and summer school in general. Pam, if you want to talk about elementary, I'll jump to high school after.
Okay. Elementary can be funded by Knights in Training grant again this year. This is the final year that Knights in Training will be able to pay for it. We do have, for my board report, you may have seen that we are partnering with Cornell Cooperative Extension on a grant, and they may be able to fund that this year or in the future. But just in case, just a heads up that we love our summer learning program and we would like to keep it in the future. So we don't need it for this summer, but be thinking about it for next year.
And then to piggyback off that, we have the past 2 summers in a row, or is it 3? I want to say 2 summers in a row, offered a local summer school option for courses that do not culminate in a Regents exam. So that would be like 9th and 10th grade English, 9th grade history, those kinds of, some of the sciences, for students who were not successful during the school year. The way we were able to do that is we leveraged Plato, and one teacher was able to offer multiple courses. And we did 2 sessions one summer, 2 3-week sessions one summer, and then last summer we were able to do it in one session. We would like to continue that model. Mr. McCooch has asked to take the year off, so we will be looking for, we'll be putting it out there for any other teachers who would be interested, but he has already created all of those courses. So since he has created them, that part of the work is done, and he will, he said that he will help whomever takes over for this summer to learn Plato. So the work for this year's teacher will be the learning of Plato and the delivery of the courses and grading the work and so forth. But in talking with Mrs. Gillette and in seeing where our students are, we're fairly certain that we're going to need to provide this opportunity for students again this year. Transitioning back to the classroom has been difficult for some students, where students are thriving and just excelling with being back in school. There are other students who are still trying to develop those good school habits. So we are definitely going to need to have summer school again this year. Okay. The next thing that we would like to address is last year at this time on the student support slide, it was in the needs and would be nice to have section of our presentation. And since then we have put another a full-time counselor back on staff. And by returning us to previous levels, it couldn't have happened at a better time. Our counselors they're just knocking it out of the park. They're doing such a good job this year, and they are they're just busy every minute. Between Eric and Bridget and Michelle, I mean, even Logan, they're busy every minute of their day, helping our students get through the challenges, the emotional challenges, the social challenges, the mental challenges that they're having through this entire pandemic. So it couldn't have happened at a better time. So again, we would like to keep this in place, not asking for more, but also not letting us sink down to previous levels of student support. Pam, do you want to add anything here?
No, I don't think so. I was just thinking, it's one of the things that we happen to lose a lot, and we notice in the elementary, are the peer social skills from being out of school for so long. So it's been nice to be able to have Eric and Logan working on those things with kids. It's great stuff.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that I'm not sure if Eric is doing, but I know that Bridget is doing, and she's working with Michelle. It's almost like a universal screening. They surveyed all of the 6 through 12 students in the fall, and they're doing it again now, looking for red flags and making sure to address any needs that they see among individual students based on what the surveys, the data the surveys provide for them. So that's not something that they would have ever had to do in the past, but the guidance that we received over the summer for social emotional suggested that we do that, and they took it to heart and they're doing it. So they're definitely.
Yeah. And that continues in the elementary. We've been doing it for a few years. So, and we're just doing up our second round of data chats this week. So
Absolutely. So again, thank you for that. Last year you put that in place, and we would just like to continue with these levels right now. Okay. The next section is our needs, and really there's only one slide here, and that is based on the board policy 2020, previously known as 7616, or is that vice versa? It's going to be 7616. At any rate, it's the pre-referral intervention strategies, and that board policy is based on requirements from NYSED in terms of how we provide intervention to our students. in order to become compliant with that policy, we are going to need to make changes to how we provide middle level AIS, grades 6 through 8. And I'm not sure exactly how that's going to pan out yet, but if you recall back to the slide that I told you to keep in mind, the CKLA, the M-Class, and the Amplify, we're hoping, and what I've already met with the AIS teachers. On Wednesday next week, I'm going to engage in a brainstorming session with Pam and the elementary service providers to talk about how they collect data, what their procedures are, what their tools are, what that looks like, and if it's something that we can extend into the middle school. So if it's something that we can, and knowing what Pam said about those materials, those data collection tools and or curriculum materials, it's possible that we'll need to ask for an extension of that stuff, if you will, into the middle school. I'm not exactly sure how those conversations will go. I know we need to make a change, and I'm like trying to anticipate that maybe that would be the change that makes the most sense. We'll see how the conversation goes. That being said, I did talk with Mr. Luther to, say what if, because if it's a change that we can make quickly, I want to be able to do that. And so he has very graciously said, we'll be okay. If you need to do that, we'll be okay. So I'm not, again, 100% sure what direction that will take, but I do know that we need to make some changes in how we collect data and use data to inform our interventions in academic intervention services. So that's the only need slide that we have. And in terms of wants, we don't have any new wants this year. And in terms of would be nice to haves, we don't have a new wish list this year. Hopefully that will help, not stress the budget. So that being said, are there any questions for Pam or me?
Anyone? Jump right in. All right. Thank you very much. Happens that you're next on the agenda as well.
Okay, I'm ready for
Oh, wait, we don't want to miss Mrs. Lee.
Okay.
Sorry. And I'll apologize now if you hear screaming in the background. My kids want to burst into the bedroom, and it could be my husband trying to wrangle them. So I'll apologize for that now.
Not a problem.
All right. And give me just a second, and I'll share my screen with you. So I kept with the similar format. So this year's highlights, we had continued communications between faculty and parents and, through COVID, as well as providing virtual supports. The special ed department did, I have to say, an amazing job connecting with students, whether it was live interactions, providing those interventions, or chats at all hours. Boy, I give our counseling department huge credit for that. Or providing video interventions so, parents could help with the students as well. They just did an amazing job facilitating those services for the parents and the students. Data, and I have to give a shout out to Pam on this one as well. We've had improved quality and quantity of data that's being used to not only inform instruction, but help with the interventions as well. And all of the teachers, especially in the elementary, are doing just such a fantastic job of providing good information. We've had continue to have an increase in the number of students being declassified or being considered for declassification. Again, those supports that are in place, everybody's just doing a fantastic job working together for these kids. And the special ed department has been helping with the RTI process in the elementary, which has helped to keep students from being classified. We've found that instead of identifying students, when we learn more, we can do more. And we found that we can better intervene before they're identified to keep them from being identified. And that's really the ultimate goal for us, is to provide better core instruction. And everybody's been fantastic working together to ensure that that happens. Our wants and needs. We would like to keep the current level of staffing to accommodate for our current students, as well as being prepared for our incoming populations. We just never really know families that move in and levels of needs that students are going to have. And we always find something for our special ed teachers and service providers to do to keep them busy. And it's always very beneficial to students in the classroom. But if we have to pull them, we can. But, you know, they're just doing a great job of helping out in any way possible with all students. Those are bunched. We would like, you know, the in-house professional development to get updated on the special education staff on the current IEP developments and criteria. There's little changes that happen year to year that, you know, whether it's writing our present levels in a certain way, transition planning, certain language that we should be using. And it changes so often that sometimes we lose track of what we're supposed to be doing, and we've kind of continued on. So, you know, just continually updating our practices to make sure we're doing it the best way and in the most meaningful way. And we'd also like to continue to support the RTI process to provide more intensive interventions to prevent referrals to CSE. And funds to use throughout the year to accommodate for scheduling changes in student needs. Sometimes we have students that transfer in that, you know, maybe we haven't had a student with a disability in that area in a number of years, and we just want updated training on how to best manage in the classroom, provide services, and things of that nature. And our dreams. We would love to have, you know, the ability to have the time incorporated into schedules of staff and the special ed teachers to appropriately collaborate for co-teaching and, you know, to help with planning interventions. Pam does a wonderful job with the CST process. And I think sometimes when we leave there, having that follow-up to be able to really sit down and see how is that intervention playing out? Is there anything that we can do to support? Is there anything else that you need? Can we tweak something to make it easier to do in the classroom? We know that classroom teachers have many more kids than we have in our special ed classroom. So sometimes we throw out ideas and they may look at us like we have 3 heads, like, are you crazy? You want us to try that? But, you know, we really want to be able to work with the teacher to make sure that everybody feels that they're doing their best and, you know, the kids really see that moment of success that they deserve. And continued professional development opportunities in reading and writing interventions. Like Pam and Nadine mentioned, being part of the Reading Top 10 tools has been just an amazing experience, and wonderful people are participating. And as good as turnkey training can be, it's not the same as when you can get all the teachers to be involved in the training, because when the core instruction's better, it's just better for everybody. Not that I want less work for the special ed teachers, but then we can really focus in on the kids that really need it and making sure the interventions are meaningful. And, you know, it's really been a great experience. Like they said, it's something that you can walk out the door with and try something new that day. So having more trainings and the opportunity to participate in those trainings is just a wonderful experience for all that can participate. And that's all I really have. So, any questions or?
Any questions for Mrs. Lee? I'm sorry, I almost slipped past your presentation, and
That's okay.
I certainly didn't want to miss it. But yeah, I apologize for that.
No, that's okay.
Guys are doing a great job, and anytime as you said, anytime we can keep a child from being needing to be identified is an awesome thing. So, yeah.
And like Nadine and Pam said, you know, the Amplify really provides great opportunities to, you know, track data and provide meaningful instruction and interventions. And, you know, I'm a little jealous that they have this wonderful tool to help them, because I'm kind of a data nerd myself. So those things are just, it's so interesting to watch how it can lead to a great conversation about how to best support the kids. And I love being able to be part of those conversations. It's really great stuff for the kids. So.
Very good. If there aren't any questions, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Now we'll move on to building principals report. Mrs. O'Shaughnessy.
Sure thing. So given the fact that Pam and Nikki and I have done so much talking, I'm going to keep that very short tonight. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. First of all, the day before Christmas, or winter vacation, winter break last week, we had about half of the seniors, a little less than half of the seniors, taking advantage of a workshop that Mrs. Gillette held all day long, writing scholarship essays, applying, doing applications for scholarships, and college application essays. The students just were so receptive to that and spent a great deal of time, putting their best efforts into applying for their scholarships in their colleges. So that was a great way to, end before a vacation. And the other thing I wanted to mention is the first of this year's lockdown drills. We did our first one. The format is modified because we can't all cluster into the corner and hide with our social distancing requirements this year. So the guidance provided to us said that rather than actually engaging in that activity during the lockdown is instruction by the teacher with the students for what we would do if it were a real lockdown. And the teachers requested that when we do a practice lockdown, we don't announce it like it's the real thing, so that the students and the teachers both know, okay, this is a drill. We're going to talk about what would happen if it were the real deal, so that when it comes across the PA as this is the real thing, they know they actually have to, engage in that behavior as opposed to just talking about that behavior. So it seems like it's something that is, it's sufficient in making sure that our students and teachers are prepared for that eventuality, which hopefully never happens. These are the kinds of things that we do with the hope that we never, ever have to engage. So there are some other things on my report that if you would like me to elaborate, I would be happy to do so.
Any questions for Mrs. O'Shaughnessy?
Somehow we gotta get across there.
Okay. Mrs.
All right.
Ratliff, you're up. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Shaughnessy.
All right. I'm like Nick, keep mine short. Just want to make a general statement about my board report, and that is that it seems like we've transitioned from being in survival mode from the beginning of the year to getting things back to normal. A lot more fun things are happening. The royalty parade, I'm not sure if you saw them on Facebook or if you saw any of these things, but the weather report, the snowshoeing and sledding, all that fun stuff is coming back into play, and a lot more movement among our grants too. And I'm not going to go into any detail. You all can read, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to do it or to answer them. But Mrs. Green is starting to work with some of the higher achieving students on self-directed learning activities. Mr. Williams is starting to work with some. We're getting some ideas together for not a virtual family night, but I don't know if you remember the veggie races from a couple years ago, where the kids all made a race car out of the veggies. Well, he plans on doing that again this year, only he's going to send the materials home and then have them come back and bring them back and race them during the day, one cohort at a time. So we can video and watch the races and so we're getting back into the swing of making learning fun, and that's exciting. I mean, from an elementary perspective, especially, that's exciting. So, any questions on anything I have written there? Like I said, you all can read, so I don't want to get into it too much. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ratliff. Mr. Connell, Superintendent's Report.
Okay, I will go quickly as well. So the numbers in Lewis County, COVID numbers are on their way down. Doesn't look like ours are coming as fast as Jefferson County's, but it's just a numbers game. They are testing asymptomatic JCC students now. So obviously there's less positive cases, and their number is, I think, under 4. Today it was under 4. But ours are, we met with public health today. Ashley's very pleased with where we are and where we're headed, and isn't overly concerned with the break, because it really wasn't a holiday break where people were necessarily getting together as much as they were over Thanksgiving and Christmas time. So that's good news. We are interviewing for an elementary position next week. We had 37 applicants. We went through all of them. It appears like we're going to probably interview 9. So that will happen next week. I did reach out to Senator Griffo's office today. We're in the process of trying to put in place a reserve fund for the wind energy that we have. I know that Lowville did this. Took them 8 years to make it happen. But as you know, with windmills and pilots, we take that revenue from them, and that's what helps reduce taxes. And then the pilot comes off, and we're kind of stuck holding the bag there. So they have a reserve for that. So when that happens, they can smooth that out. And we hope to have the same thing. So I spoke to one of his aides today. They're going to address it with him, and he or someone will be getting back to us. I don't suspect ours will take 8 years. It's already done, basically. We just need to change the name from Lowville to Copenhagen. So hopefully that'll happen fast. As you know, sports have started. The boys and girls have each played twice. Both boys and girls basketball have had their senior nights. Those went very well. Wrestling and cheerleading are having their senior nights this week. We met again with public health today, and we are going to now allow spectators in our home games only. So every school district, each athlete will be able to have 2 people come to the game. And away games are everything's still going to be streamed. So they'll be able to see them all, but they'll actually be able to come. We had a great dialogue, and not that I'm, anti-spectator or anti-parents, but my concern wasn't so much that the parents got to see their kids play, was that their kids got to play in front of someone. I think that's really important. After watching our home games, it felt like a scrimmage, and it felt like a scrimmage to them as well. And I think having someone in the stands now, again, the parents can watch at home. It wasn't so much of a concern of satisfying their need to be at the game as opposed to their kids being able to play in front of someone. So I think that's going to turn out well. Ashley is, again, realizes that what we're doing, and we're doing it safely, and she's been very supportive of as this moves along. Going to be sending a survey out, or actually there's a survey out right now about what's going to happen with winter and fall too. I know we haven't mentioned this in a while, but most schools didn't play fall sports. So they created a window from March 8th till April 19th to play the fall sports. We've already played ours. We did petition to the state to be able to finish our season if we chose to. But now we're thinking of others in other places thought it would be a great idea to start fall 2 on March 8th. Well, I don't know, but we have 4 feet of snow on our field right now, and it's still coming. So some of us mentioned that that's probably not a really good idea, but at the time it seemed like a great idea. So now what we're doing is asking maybe to extend the winter season, and not that we need it as much as Jefferson does. They haven't even started playing yet. So they basically have 2 weeks to get games in. If we would push that down the road and push the start of fall 2 down the road, that would help everybody. So those surveys are due Wednesday, and we'll have a better idea when that comes. Lewis County got another batch of vaccines, so they're going to vaccinate the rest of our faculty that has requested it. I think we had 9 left, but it's up to 13 now. So they'll be getting their vaccinations this week. And then everybody that requested it in our school will be vaccinated. And I don't have a solid number on that because I know some people went out and did it on their own. I know when they opened up those, the drugstores and Potsdam, Syracuse, and Utica, I know some of our staff that were lower down on the list decided to choose that. So I really don't know how many we have. You know, I offered it to people if they wanted it. It wasn't, you know, as you know, nothing's mandatory. So, but I think quite a few of our staff took advantage of it. We're hoping to hear, they're saying within the next 72 hours that there's a good chance that they're going to reduce the 6 feet of separation to 3 feet of separation, the push to get kids back in school. It really isn't going to change anything that we do. We're going to continue to keep 6 feet of separation. We're here 5 days a week with all of our kids. There's no reason for us to push our chairs back together. And we've actually been having some discussions, at least in the elementary, of maybe continuing this next year. Some of the teachers, and Pam, I guess not all, but most of the teachers are pretty excited about the way we're doing things now and the opportunities they're having to really connect with their kids because of their small class sizes. So jump in if you want, Pam.
I do, because this is something that I briefly mentioned in my board report, but some of the teachers are quite passionate about continuing the small class sizes. And it sounds kind of like a selfish reasons, but to hear them talk and to say having 4 first graders sit in my small group at a table as opposed to having 7 is a big deal. It's like I know where every single one of them is academically. I know exactly which ones don't know their letter sounds or whatever this skill. And the relationships, the discipline problems within the classrooms are, and the kids are kind to each other. They just are going on and on about why this is a good idea. And they're not saying all the way up, but they're thinking maybe K through 2. And then 3rd grade when they need to start being a little more independent, you know, maybe having 2 cohorts there. But we're still talking, but it is something, like Scott said, that is being talked about for sure.
And I think, you know, just the fact that we're virtually on these meetings now, and we've learned a lot of things we can do, you know, we're forced into doing that we realize it might even be better doing it this way. So that's all I have. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Questions, anyone? Very good. Thank you, Mr. Connell.
Yep.
We'll move on to new business. Approval of the following resolution.
So moved.
Public hearing and district vote. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Appointment of Emily Call as night cleaner.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Appointment of Scott Luther to school business manager position.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval to vacate the district treasurer position.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion or questions?
What exactly does this do? Changing district treasurer and approving business manager. I know that's, yeah, I
Civil
can't think of the term. Thank you. Thank you. Civil service position. Is there any specific issue with abolishing treasurer? Can we, 10 years down the road or 20 years down the road, return to a treasurer?
Yeah, I mean, what we did is vacate the position, so the position will still be there.
Okay.
And we can put that person into that. We just vacated that and then obviously had to abolish Scott as that because we
Right.
just put him as the district treasurer, so.
Okay, there's no legal ramifications or
No.
something that's gonna bite us down the road. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 6, approval vacate the position of watch person.
So move.
Second.
Discussion or questions? Is this the night watch person?
Yes, and I'll, I have some things for executive session and I'll address that there.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval to reinstate Destiny Montalvo as cleaner.
So move.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the instructional calendar for next year.
So move. Second.
Any questions, comments, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the request from Rachel Rarick to extend bereavement leave.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Appointment of Melissa Kempfer as long-term substitute.
So move.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the request from Mark and Kathy Woodrick for transportation.
So move. Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of Jennifer Burkhorn as substitute aide.
So move. Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Recommendation on the Committee on Preschool Special Ed.
So move.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion items.
Again, executive session, no discussion items for me.
Very good. Anybody else have anything? Okay, a motion to go into executive session.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.